TMS Web is a new modern web framework to build web applications with Pascal. It's pure Delphi, and that makes reusing existing code easy. So far we've shown you that you can share the same source code on different platforms. For example, in the FNC TV guide example, we showed you that you can write a VCL, FireMonkey, and Lazarus application, and also a web application using the same base library for all your controls. Furthermore, the controls, as we used FNC controls, can be shared across frameworks. However, there's one downside to this, and we have to admit this is what a lot of frameworks do. The source code was written rather recently. So what about old source code that you want to migrate to the web? Because of this, TMS decided to migrate some VCL source code to the web. It should be very old, and it should not be intended for the web at all. And furthermore, we don't want it to be our source code. Thus, we found something really interesting. We found some interesting source code from Marco Bianchini. Apologies for mispronouncing the name. He released Bianco games. One of the Bianco games was Tetris. Everybody knows Tetris. Most of us, at least the people that are my age, had it on their Game Boy. He, however, implemented it in December 1997 in Delphi 2 or Delphi 3. We're not certain. However, the library is compatible for Delphi 2 and 3. This means it was a rather tough challenge. Consider VCL classes built for Delphi 2 and 3, migrating them to the web. That's gotta be impossible, right? Let's have a look at the demonstration from Bianco Tetris. Here's the main form with Tetris on the left and the instructions on the right. There are scores being shown. Nothing fancy, but you can play Tetris. Key is a panel that hosts the T-Tetris component. T-Tetris is a class derived from T-Graphic Control. That means the designer of the initial game really used the Delphi VCL framework to derive his game. His class model makes it possible to be integrated into a completely different framework that follows the same class principles. Thus, one of our architects was able to transfer the Tetris game that was designed for the VCL within less than 30 minutes for the web. What he did is rather simple. On the main form, he placed an image component with all the instructions, and he kept some space down below where the component is being drawn. TMS Web has full tcanvas support, and that's exactly what the component uses, tcanvas. Thus, if we look at our web form, we have one reference to T-Tetris, which is the original component that was written in 1997. Then we had to initialize everything in the form create event. You see that nothing else is happening but the T-Tetris component being created and some properties are being initialized. Then we have to react if the game is supposed to be started, which means we have to implement a click event. Then we can transfer everything from the demo that was handled with a timer component when the drawing is supposed to be updated. We used the same methods that have been, yet again, implemented in 1997. Finally, we can evaluate the key presses just like in a normal desktop application. We're on the web, but still we can do it like we're used to from the desktop. So with this simple frame, embedding T-Tetris in a web form, we're already at our destination. Here you see the application running in the web browser. We click Start, and guess what? The Tetris game is starting. We can move left, we can move right, we can rotate, and of course we can move the pieces down. Everything is working as expected, and we used the same source code that has been written in 1997 for Delphi 2 and Delphi 3. TMS Web is so powerful because it follows principles that have been with Delphi right from the start. You can use classes that you're used to since Delphi 1. You can write components and you can integrate them in your web pages. TMS makes this very easy. TMS Web makes migrating your source code to the web really easy. Just have a look at the application yourself. The link is on this slide. Enjoy playing Tetris on the web with TMS Web.